Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Alright guys, I'm back. It's Monday, April the 20th, and it is 9:53 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. We are going to be getting into the news. There are no Q posts for tonight, so we're going to just get right into the news and information. I do have some people to thank, but I'm going to wait until the end to do that. You know, when I sit down here to begin this program, I feel like I'm getting ready to talk to family. I really do feel that way because so many of you have been listening from the very beginning, and I feel like I know you. And so when somebody that usually posts a lot doesn't, I notice that as well. I don't know if any of you know who Ralph Riley is in real life, but Ralph, I know somebody mentioned it in the last video under the comments that you have been missing in action, and we're concerned. So if you are all right, just leave a little note in the comments so that we'll know that you're okay. I do notice when, you know, especially when somebody that is, you know, posts quite often, I recognize, and, you know, we are like a family in some ways because certainly we're on the same page in terms of a lot of things, and we're family that you choose to be with rather than, you know, having to be with because of blood. But anyway, I do worry because I know he's in California. I don't know, you know, with all this virus going around, I don't know. I don't know who's sick and who isn't. But anyway, if you could offer a prayer for him because we have not seen him, that would be very much appreciated. Also, if any of you are not well, put it in the comments because there's a lot of people on this channel that are believers and strong believers. And I know for a fact they will pray for you. So if you are sick, whatever, that you need prayer, please put it in the comments and we'll pray for you for real. All right. Well, that is all there is to that. And I'm going to jump right in here. So let's just, and again, it's not in any particular order, just stuff that I've grabbed today. And there's a lot of things going on. And I know you know that. I mean, that's kind of a almost like a very trite thing to say. But there are a lot of things going on. And some of it's good and some of it's not so good. So I don't know about this virus. I know it's a real virus, but I also know it's a false flag in that it was planned before it happened. This was a planned event. Now, I'm not saying that Donald Trump is in on that at all. It was definitely deep state, the people that run the world that are trying to bring about a new world order. And what better way to do it than this? So, yeah, it's a false flag in that sense, but it's not false. It's like saying, you know, a gunman opens fire and someone saying it's a false flag. Well, just because it was a false flag doesn't mean that people didn't get shot. So, and speaking of that, we have what just happened here in Canada. My parents were telling me that another person has died, so it's up to 18 people that have passed away, including the gunman, which is odd because they said they had arrested the gunman and then they said that they had killed the gunman. Well, which was it? So I'm not sure. There's a lot of, it's very hard to get to the bottom of anything that happens in Canada. Very hard. I'm not sure why that is, but it's almost impossible to get information about anything that happens like that in Canada. So, and we don't have a press that will really press, you know, it's owned. The press is owned. So it's very difficult to get to what happened there, but very odd story indeed, because this man was a denturist. He made dentures. He was not, unless he had financial problems because of this shutdown, I don't know, but there were several crime scenes, and they're figuring that the amount of people killed is only going to rise. And the reason is because he burned several houses down, and it's not known whether there were people inside or not. I don't know why he would just burn houses down if there weren't people inside. I'm thinking that, you know, he was intent on killing as many people as possible, and possibly he killed them and then tried to light the house on fire to cover his tracks. I don't know, but this guy had an RCMP uniform, not easy to obtain. So that is one big question in my mind. Another thing is he had bought at an auction a police vehicle, which was an RCMP vehicle. And apparently he had obtained it from some sort of an auction. But that sounds a little bit, I'm not sure that they auction off police vehicles without removing all the writing and everything on it. There's something really not right about the story. So if you guys have heard anything, or I know I do have Canadian listeners, if there's anybody from Nova Scotia, could you weigh in on this and let us know what you think and what you think is going on? It is the largest mass murder in Canadian history. So it is important, whether it is a FF or not, it is important to find out exactly what's going on, because it is one very, very odd story. All right, well, I'm going to move on now, and I'm going to get into the rest of the stuff. I would bring you more on that, but there really isn't much in the news at all about it, and I'm not sure, you know, unless we can tap into somebody that's living in that area, I think it's going to be very difficult to get to the bottom of what happened. Anyway, all right. So this is Mike Kudry, and he says the whole thing turned out to be a scam. It was a takedown of a duly elected president. The top of the FBI was scum, human scum. What am I to do? You'll find out what I'm going to do. President Trump isn't speaking empty words. Buckle up. Yes, and that was a direct quote from President Donald Trump. So let's take a listen to...
Weeks and months.
You thought any more about pardoning Paul Manafort or Roger Stone so they're not exposed to coronavirus in jail?
Well, I just tell you this. Roger Stone was treated very unfairly. Paul Manafort, the Black Book, turned out to be a fraud. We learned that out during the various last number of weeks and months. They had a Black Book that came out of Ukraine, turned out to be a fraud. Turned out to be a fraud. They convicted a man, turned out to be a fraud. General Flynn was a highly respected person, and it turned out to be a scam on him. The FBI said he didn't lie, and Mueller's people wanted him to go to jail. Okay? So what am I going to do? You'll find out what I'm going to do. I'm not going to say what I'm going to do, but I will tell you the whole thing turned out to be a scam, and it turned out to be a disgrace to our country, and it was a takedown of a duly elected president, and these people suffered greatly. General Flynn, I mean, what they did to him, and even the FBI said, and they had some, and nobody bigger fan of the FBI than me at the level of the people that really matter. But the top of the FBI was scum. And what they did to General Flynn, and you know it, and everybody knows it, was a disgrace. He was in the service for over 30 years. He ends up being a general and respected. Respected. And almost his first day in office, they come in with papers they want to investigate him. Never happened before, and now the tables are turned. Investigate the investigators, I guess. These were crooked people. These are bad people. These are very dangerous people. You know what they are, though? They're scum. They're human scum. All right, do you want to have one in the back, please?
Now, what is interesting about that to me, even, you know, I love that he is schooling the press. They shouldn't need to be schooled, but they don't do their jobs. They're parrots. They just parrot back whatever they're told to say, and the press briefings really aren't press briefings at all. They're not asking questions that a normal journalist would ask, you know, and basically the press briefings, you know, the president speaks and he gives the press a opportunity to question for clarification. But that's not what they're doing. They're not seeking clarification of anything he said. You don't hear them very often say, well, Mr. President, you said such and such. Now, did you mean this or did you mean this? It's supposed to be clarification because they're supposed to take what they've heard there and report it to the people, disseminate it. And that is not what they're doing. They put spins on it. They change what he said. They try to trip him up. They are nasty to him. Absolutely, positively nasty. Now, he handles himself very well. He handles himself far better than I would, you know, really, because that kind of attack day after day after day is wearing on a person, very wearing. But he handles it. I don't know. He's made of titanium, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I love that part. What am I going to do? You'll find out what I'm going to do. And I have no doubt about that. President Trump does not issue empty words. I've found that to be true in the 3 years and a bit since he has been president. So let's go back now. And I better pick it up if I want to get through all this. All right, now let's look at this. And we will. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. drops bombshell. Trump could be greatest president in history. Woohoo! Well, I think that many of us would concur with that. Absolutely. During an interview on CNN, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., son of the late Robert Francis Bobby Kennedy, dropped a bombshell that has every liberal sobbing, Kennedy said. Donald Trump could be the greatest president in history. If he wanted to, he could easily be the next Teddy Roosevelt. Can you hear the sobs coming from liberal protesters when a left-wing icon like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. finally admits the truth? Kennedy continued, well, I think Donald Trump can be, you know, any kind of president he wants. He has this extraordinary opportunity because he's coming into office less burdened by obligation than almost any president in our history, with the possible exception of Andrew Jackson. And you know, both of them, Jackson and Trump, came in. People were sickened. They were outraged when Jackson came in, and they thought it was the end of the world. And he became unless you were an American Indian, he was a very good president in defending the country against corporate power and really democratizing America in many ways. Trump does not have obligations. He could really be an extraordinary president. Wow. But he wasn't done confirming every single liberal's worst nightmare. You know, I think he can do anything because he is not bound by ideology. He is less bound by ideology than any president probably we've had this century. He said to Leonardo DiCaprio the other day that he wanted to be the next Teddy Roosevelt, and he can easily do that. I think he can be any kind of president he wants. I think he could be the greatest president in history if he wanted to. Yes, but he will need help in fighting off the establishment. If Trump can convert a few establishment liberals like Robert Kennedy, his mission will be that much easier to implement. We still have to get John McCain and some Republican holdouts in line. This has got to be really old because John McCain is no longer with us. This came across my feed like it was new, but obviously it cannot be that new, and I don't see a date on here. Obviously, I think John McCain is already in line, if you know what I mean. Anyway, giving the guy who wrote The Art of the Deal some leverage means the American people will get the best deal we have ever gotten in our history, cementing Trump's place at the top of presidents. Well, I happen to agree with that. Again, I don't know when this was written. No date on it, but obviously it's older than it appears to be because John McCain is no longer this side of the dirt. He's pushing up daisies somewhere. All right. Okay, let's go back here and let's look at this. John Kirkpatrick says, so POTUS cuts funding for WHO, and Michelle Obama and Laura Bush team up to raise money. It gets easier every day to see who's pulling the strings. Can't believe I used to trust the Bush family. I can't believe it either. And you know something? I can't even, point a finger at him because I trusted the Bushes way back. But 9/11 woke me up. I mean, woke me up big time. I knew that day in my heart, something's not right here. Something's terribly wrong. And I was right. And as soon as the information started trickling out about that, I just couldn't, I just wanted it. I was so voracious. I just wanted more and more and more information because I was horrified. And then, of course, the realization hits you. Well, if they lied about this, what else have they lied to us about? And boy, when you start digging into all the things they've lied about, that's a full-time job, just keeping up with it all. Anyway, let's go on here. This from Matt Gates. There is a dangerous globalist element to the establishment elites thinking, but Americans can take pride in the fact that President Donald Trump isn't going to overpay for bad science from people who shill for China. Real leaders ask tough questions and strike balances. Oh yeah, I like this guy. And let's listen to what he has to say. I just want to check that my okay. Alrighty.
The president is chomping at the bit to unleash the opportunity in the American economy yet again once we can do so safely. But Steve, there is a globalist element to the establishment elite thinking that you described in your monologue. I recall the WHO telling us that the death rate could be as high as 3.4%. And yet the Santa Clara experience you cite shows that the WHO could have been off by a factor of 17 to 28. Americans can take great pride in the fact that President Trump isn't going to overpay for bad science from people who shill for China when it is convenient for them to do so. I think that brings the decision-making to the president, and I think that Eisenhower warned in his farewell address that we could end up ceding too much decision-making to a technological elite, and that real leaders had to ask tough questions and balance these considerations that you've reflected on. The president is chomping at the bit to unleash the opportunity in the American economy yet again.
So I really like Matt Gaetz. I think he is really on the ball and always speaks well on behalf of the president. Yeah, I really, really like him. And plus he has perfect teeth, and who doesn't love that? All right, let's go back now and let's get into this. Absolutely. Somehow I don't feel sorry for this guy.
What? You haven't played World of Warships yet?
That's an ad, and we're not going to listen to it. Okay. Richard Branson says Virgin Atlantic needs a government loan to survive. Airlines around the world are asking for support. As the Australian airline he founded teeters on the brink of administration. On the brink of administration? That does not even sound, that doesn't even make sense. Teeters on the brink of administration? Anyway, Sir Richard Branson, probably on bankruptcy is probably the word that they're looking for, has warned staff working for Virgin Atlantic that the carrier could close if a government loan is not forthcoming. In an open letter, the Virgin founder wrote, "Over the 5 decades I've been in business, this is the most challenging time we have ever faced. It's hard to find words to convey what a devastating impact this pandemic continues to have on so many communities, businesses, and people around the world." From a business perspective, the damage to many is unprecedented, and the length of disruption remains worryingly unknown. We are operating in many of the hardest hit sectors, including aviation, leisure, hotels, and cruises, and we have more than 70,000 people in 35 countries working in Virgin companies. We're doing all we can to keep those businesses afloat. Addressing the problem at Virgin Atlantic, which, like other international airlines, have seen demand disappear. He said, "We will do everything we can to keep the airline going, but we will need government support to achieve that in the face of severe uncertainty surrounding travel today and not knowing how long the planes will be grounded for." This would be in the form of a commercial loan. It would be free money and the airline would pay it back, as EasyJet will do for the £600 million loan the government recently gave them. The reality of this unprecedented crisis in many airlines around the world need government support, and many have already received it. Without it, there won't be any competition left, and hundreds of thousands more jobs will be lost, along with critical connectivity and huge economic value. Virgin Atlantic started with one plane 36 years ago. Over those years, it has created real competition for British Airways, which must remain fierce for the benefit of our wonderful customers and the public at large. The Virgin Atlantic chief executive, Shay Weiss, has been in talks with the Treasury over a loan, but it is understood officials wanted the airline to tap shareholders for more cash. So it's interesting because Richard Branson, of course, is another one of these that owns a private island, which is probably used for far more than just relaxation and rest, if you know what I mean. Probably not too much rest going on that island. Virgin Atlantic is 49% owned by the U.S. giant Delta Airlines, which has been granted billions of dollars in aid by Washington, D.C. In the letter, Sir Richard also tackled critics who said that he should use more of his personal fortune to bail out his businesses. Yeah. Do you think that, think of Trump's hotels. They are extremely expensive, very, very, very top of the line. And, do you not think they're suffering? But as Donald Trump said today in his press briefings, he hasn't gotten a cent from any of this. And could you imagine if he took any money for this? Even though he is an American businessman who is suffering because of this. But, and I guess it is a conflict of interest, no doubt. But, he's taking it. And Richard Branson is, I don't know if Trump's, I think Richard Branson has more money than Trump, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, I think that he should use his own personal money. That's what I think. If you believe in your business, then, that's what you do. You invest in it. I've seen a lot of comments about my net worth, but that is calculated on the value of Virgin businesses around the world before this crisis, not sitting as cash in a bank account ready to withdraw. I do understand that as well. But when you do have that many assets, it's pretty easy to go to the bank yourself and get a loan. I mean, who isn't going to give Virgin, Richard Branson a loan? I think just about any bank in the world would. So anyway. I'm going to leave that there because, I don't particularly enjoy talking about Richard Branson. Okay. Okie dokie. This is very important. Now, I believe I have touched on this before because this came out the 12th of February, 2018. And I'm not going to belabor it. I just saw this again, and I thought I would bring it up. UN aid workers raped 60,000 people as its claimed organization employs 3,300 pedophiles. Yeah, that's correct. Unbelievable. The claim is in a bombshell dossier that former senior United Nations official Andrew McLeod handed over to DFID Secretary Priti Patel last year. In it, Professor McLeod, who estimated there are 3,300 pedophiles working for the world bodies of various agencies alone, thousands more predatory sex abusers specifically target aid charity jobs to get close to vulnerable women and children. And there has been an epidemic cover-up of the sickening crimes for 2 decades, with those who attempt to blow the whistle just getting fired. Sharing his dossier with The Sun, Professor McLeod last night warned that the spiraling abuse scandal was on the same scale as the Catholic churches. Yeah, the UN. We're here to help. Run! The respected academic said there are tens of thousands of aid workers around the world with pedophile tendencies, but if you wear a UNICEF t-shirt, nobody will ask you what you're up to. I'm sure that's true. You have the impunity to do whatever you want. It's an endemic across the aid industry, across the world. The system is at fault and should have stopped this years ago. The professor's grim 60,000 figure is based on UN Secretary General's Antonio Guterres' admission last year that UN peacekeepers and civilian staff abused 311 victims in just one 12-month period over 2016. The UN also admits that the likely true number of cases reported against its staff is double that, as figures outside of war zones are not centrally collated. So I just want you to know that you know, and these are bodies that we give money to. The UN, I don't know, not a good organization as far as I'm concerned. All right, I just wanted to bring that back up to remind you guys. I know I covered it probably a year ago, but it is important to know that these entities like WHO and the UN, they are globalist organizations that don't care a whit about human rights or anything else. You think the World Health Organization is concerned with health? They're not. All right, let's come down here. Now, this is Dr. Vladimir Zev Zelenko. Vladimir Zev Zelenko. He has treated 1,450 patients with COVID-19. Now, that's a lot, 1,450 patients. That's a lot of people. 405 high-risk patients were treated early with 3-drug regimen: hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc. Results? Just 2 deaths out of 1,450 patients with COVID-19. Only 2 deaths. 4 were on respirators and survived. The rest recovered fully. Now, please tell me again why they want to ban this very cheap and effective drug. Why? Well, you and I both know why. They, and I'm not including Donald Trump, I'm saying they, the deep state, the cabal, want as many people to die as possible. All right, now let's go on. Okay, and I have touched on this before, but it bears repeating, absolutely bears repeating, because this is prophetic, and not prophetic in the true sense of the word. It's prophetic in the sense of self-fulfilling prophecy. This man knew. This man knew. Now let's listen to him.
Just diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that. But also there will be a surprise outbreak. But also there will be a surprise outbreak. But also there will be a surprise outbreak. So for those who think that infectious diseases is gone, there's so many people who've made foolhardy statements not knowing at the time that they made them. The mistake that so many people have made is something that several of our panelists have already referred to, and that is a failure to look beyond our own borders in the issue of the globality of health issues. Just diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have
so this was 2017, and he's saying that President Trump is going to face a surprise outbreak. If anyone can explain that to me, I don't think anybody can. He obviously knew something. You don't say that unless you know something. And he said it very, matter of fact, that the president is going to face a surprise outbreak. And he did. All right, so I wanted to remind you of that because we know that Dr. Fauci is not working in our best interest. I think we have seen that, and I think it's abundantly clear to us. So let's go on now. All right, this from the Gateway Pundit. Democrat Representative Adam Schiff's FISA abuse report now totally debunked. Will he suffer any consequences other than being known as the biggest liar in Congress? Well, he's not just the biggest liar in Congress. This man is like full-on crazy. There is something so... Have you ever looked at somebody and you don't know anything about them, but you just know that you don't like them? There's something that you can feel about them that just makes your skin crawl. And that's how I feel about Adam Schiff. He makes my skin crawl. There's something so unclean about him that I can't even put my finger on it, other than we know some of the things that he was involved in. But yeah, that's somebody that I definitely, he and Nancy Pelosi and Hillary, those are the three ones that I'm rooting for, that we will see justice. Of course, there's many more, but those are my top three. All right, in 2018, Schiff published his rebuttal document to the Devin Nunes memo. The far-left writers at Vox reported in February 2018. When is this article from? Yeah, it's April 20th. All right, it's today's article. Democrat Representative Adam Schiff earns the unenviable honor of being known as the biggest liar in the U.S. Congress. The more information is revealed from trusted sources, the more Schiff is seen as a liar and hack. In 2018, Schiff published his rebuttal document to the Devin Nunes memo. The far-left writers at Vox reported in February 2018. Late on Saturday afternoon, House Democrats surprised the country by releasing their rebuttal to the so-called Nunes memo. The document, prepared by Representative Devin Nunes, Republican from California, that has become a key part of the conservative argument that the FBI is biased against President Donald Trump. The Democrats' rebuttal memo, written by Representative Adam Schiff, argues that the Nunes memo is full of distortions and misrepresentations that don't stand up to scrutiny based on underlying classified evidence. Having now read both memos, I can say with confidence, Schiff makes his case. He quotes key FBI documents that explicitly contradict the Nunes memo's core arguments. Any fair-minded observer who reads these two documents side by side can only conclude one thing: Nunes is either deeply misinformed or straight up lying. Now, you've got to realize where this is coming. This was done by the writers at Vox, who are notoriously left, radically left. So, well, this didn't age very well, because any fair-minded person who even casually follows Democrat Representative Adam Schiff over the past few years knows it. Adam Schiff is a serial liar. I think he is a pathological liar. There's a difference. In December, we were provided a substantial amount of information that covered Schiff's FISA memo, which provided absolute evidence from the Obama-appointed DOJ IG that Schiff's report was a total fabrication. It was a lie. Molly Hemingway at The Federalist compared the Nunes-Schiff memos with the DOJ IG's report. When the DOJ IG's report was released, Hemingway took a look at the facts regarding the FISA warrant obtained to spy on Carter Page, and therefore candidate and President Trump. The new Inspector General report on FISA abuse settles the debate between Republican and Democrats on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Both groups put out memos about the Department of Justice efforts to secure a warrant to wiretap Carter Page. At the time of their release, the media praised Democrat Adam Schiff and his memo and vilified Republican Devin Nunes and his memo. Nearly 2 years later, the Inspector General's report vindicates the Nunes memo while showing that the Schiff memo was riddled with lies and false statements. Hemingway went on to discuss the allegations made by Schiff in his rebuttal report of the Nunes memo. The Democratic minority on the committee that then led by Representative Adam Schiff put out a response memo with competing claims. 1. The FBI and DOJ officials did not omit material information from the FISA warrant. In what world? 2. The DOJ made only narrow use of information from Steele's sources about Page's specific activities in 2016. Are they just pulling this out of their hinder regions? In subsequent FISA renewals, DOJ provided additional information that corroborated Steele's reporting. No, that didn't happen. The Page FISA warrant allowed the FBI to collect valuable intelligence. No, it didn't. Far from omitting material facts about Steele, as the majority claims, DOJ repeatedly informed the court about Steele's background, credibility, and potential bias. No, they didn't. The FBI conducted a rigorous process to vet Steele's allegations. No, they didn't. And the Page FISA application explained the FBI's reasonable bias for finding Steele credible. No. Steele's prior reporting was used in criminal proceedings. No, that's not true. Each of these claims were found by Horowitz to be false. Even we can see that they're false. Horowitz found that FBI and DOJ officials did in fact omit critical material information from the FISA warrant, including several items exculpatory to Page, meaning that it's exculpatory. It's in Page's favor, but they excluded it, of course. Material facts were not just omitted, but willfully hidden through doctoring of evidence. The warrants were based on Steele's dossier, which was known by January 27 to be ridiculously uncorroborated. The renewals did not find information that corroborated Steele's reporting. The warrants clearly didn't allow the FBI to collect valuable intelligence, and Steele's prior reporting was not used in criminal proceedings. We found that the FBI did not have information corroborating specific allegations against Carter Page in Steele's reporting when it relied upon his reports in the first FISA application or subsequent renewal applications. The executive summary of the report says, this past week, the Senate released more information related to the DOJ IG report. Items that were redacted in the report in December were unredacted last week. 4 key comments were unredacted per the request of Republican Senators Grassley and Johnson. The Democrats' rebuttal to the bombshell GOP FISA memo in February of 2018 has aged very poorly. Well, most things that the Democrats do age poorly these days, anyway. I think the Democrats way back were whole different animal, because I don't know, but the left, the Democrats, the left, they are leaning now towards socialism very, very heavily. And I don't know when that change happened, but kind of like a frog in a kettle sort of thing. It's happened slowly and we didn't notice it until now. Anyway, in their memo, the Intel Democrats, who had access to the classified FISA information at the time, falsely claimed that officials at the FBI and Justice Department did not abuse the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act process, omit material information, or subvert this vital tool to spy on the Trump campaign. The IG report, released in December by Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz, identified 17, isn't that an interesting number? 17 separate errors and omissions with regard to all 4 FISA applications. The Schiff rebuttal also falsely claimed that the DOJ only made narrow use of information from Steele's sources and that the FBI had an independent basis for investigating Page's motivations. Dan Bongino says the classified new material proves once again what a piece of garbage Adam Schiff is. If any Republican had lied as brazenly about what he knew about the collusion hoax, the media would be demanding answers right now. But because he's a Democrat, the media celebrates him. Isn't that the truth? Schiff's lies are now so egregious that it is clear that he must have some sort of mental disorder and moral disconnect at the core of his being. There really is something horribly wrong with this guy. I would concur, and also I believe that you can slip Nancy Pelosi in there as well. This woman is completely disconnected, probably because her conscience has been seared as if by a hot iron. She has no conscience. All right. Well, let's go on, because we can and we will. All right. This is very odd, really odd. Again, we are looking at the Gateway Pundit. This is really happening. Montana County demands citizens wear government-issued armbands to shop at grocery stores. Update: Valley County health officials respond, apologize. Well, they should respond and they should apologize. What does that remind you of? Armbands. What does that? Where does your mind immediately go? Nazi Germany. Absolutely. We thought this was a spoof. It's not. A Montana county is mandating citizens to wear a pink wristband to go shopping at grocery stores. The ban represents the person has quarantined for 14 days. You know who else had armbands? Yeah. And Lisa Mae Crowley says, wow, Montana County demands people wear government-issued armbands to do business. I'm not sure where Montana County is. Maybe some of you guys know. They should actually let us know. What Montana County won't allow you to do business without a pink wristband. I recall Germany forcing Jews to wear a yellow Star of David on their clothing so they'd be easily identified and summarily discriminated against. Unconstitutional. The Montana Daily, must be in Montana. The Montana Daily Gazette reported in what might be one of the most over-the-top and draconian responses to CV yet. In Montana Valley County is mandating that people wear government-issued pink armbands in order to purchase products inside of stores. The measure, enforced by the Valley County Health Department, insists that store owners keep customers out unless they have the pink armbands, which denote the customer has been in the area for more than 14 days and submitted to quarantine protocol. According to the flyer produced by the Valley County Health Department, out-of-towners who lack the government-issued armbands will be prohibited from stores, and residents are notified to call law enforcement if they do not comply. The health department even issued a script to warn customers to flee, saying, "You are violating our governor's and Valley County's health officers' orders. I am happy to shop for you with curbside delivery. I will get the items for you and bring them to your car. If you don't cooperate, you will force me to call law enforcement." The Valley County health officials responded and apologized, saying the flyer was a breakdown in their internal process. How many people believe that? No, put your hand way up so I can see it. Yeah, I didn't think so. I don't even see one hand. All right, let's go on now. Well, let's look at this. No, really, let's. This by the DC Patriot. Wow, Trump campaign releases chilling new Biden ad that every American needs to see. Yes, well, let's look at it, shall we? I think we should. I think we will. All righty.
Here we go.
This is a crisis.
This is no time for Donald Trump's record of hysterical xenophobia. Biden's son inked a $1 billion deal with a subsidiary of the Bank of China.
China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They're not bad folks.
Since the outbreak, the Communist Party has been mobilizing overseas organizations to buy local supplies and send them to China.
It is in our self-interest that China continue to prosper. What a beautiful history we wrote together. Banning all travel will not stop it.
The president is right. The travel restriction on China, as every public health official we've talked to said, bought the country time.
That was a very smart move right there.
Xenophobia. Xenophobia. I complimented him on dealing with China. I'm not going nuts.
Yes, and Biden would be very dangerous for America, not just because of his leftist views and his ties with China, but, and Ukraine, all the whatever he did there, which, I mean, we know about, all sorts of things that he did there, and I'm hoping that he will be punished for that, but he is dangerous for America because you don't want a man like that in charge of our nuclear arsenal. You know, I'm just saying. All right, well, let's get out of there and go back because there's more. There's always more. There's more than we can get to, actually. All righty, let me see. Okay, this is very important to cover. Zuckerberg, the Zuck. Some stay-at-home protests organized on Facebook could qualify as harmful misinformation. And, well, don't you know that Zuckerberg is the king of, you know, he wants to be the god over what information we can see that won't harm us and what we can't see. You know, he is like the hall monitor of language now. Yeah. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg on Monday told ABC's George Stephanopoulos, that's right, I said Stephanopoulos, that protests of stay-at-home orders that violate state social distancing rules organized through his social media platform qualify as harmful misinformation and will be taken down. How do you deal with the fact that Facebook is now being used to organize a lot of these protests to defy social distancing guidelines in states? The Good Morning America anchor asked Zuckerberg if someone trying to organize something like that, does that qualify as harmful misinformation? We do classify that as harmful misinformation, and we take that down, Zuckerberg said. At the same time, it's important that people can debate policies, so there's a line on this, you know, more than normal political discourse. I think a lot of the stuff that people are saying that is false around a health emergency like this can be classified as harmful misinformation. Well, and who is going to decide whether that is harmful information? Well, him, of course. You know, the whole monitor of language in general. A spokesperson for Facebook told The Hill that the events would only be taken down if they violate state laws, meaning that many protests against social distancing guidelines could continue to be organized on the platform unless they break the guidelines themselves. Yeah, right. For example, pages for demonstrations carried out in cars that seek to block traffic are allowed to stay up. According to NBC News, several such events are still up on the platform. Unless government prohibits the event during this time, we allow it to be organized on Facebook, the spokesperson said. For this same reason, events that defy government guidance on social distancing aren't allowed on Facebook. The comments from Zuckerberg came after President Trump and the White House CV task force last week unveiled a three-phase plan for reopening the U.S. economy, with individual governors ultimately deciding how and when the phased reopenings would occur based on specific criteria levels. And, you know, I wish Mark Zuckerberg, who in no way looks human, I wish that he would just run his platform and let it just be a fun platform where people get together and can talk and discuss, and just, you know, leave leave the First Amendment alone. You know, we are entitled to have free speech, but what he is doing is he is social engineering, and that is exactly what he is, a social engineer. He is trying to shape and mold people's opinion into a globalist mentality, whether or not they like that. The comments, okay, let me see here. ABC News exclusive, Facebook teams up with researchers to help collect data on novel coronavirus in an effort to better equip health officials and the public moving forward amidst the pandemic. Now, I'm just going to play this for a second because I want you to look at this guy. There is something not normal about him. Really. He hardly ever blinks. I mean, I don't know if that's the case here, but I mean, look, like, I know he's probably had Botox and all that, and that's fine, you know, but I'm just saying, he just does not seem normal.
In a world where we stand 6 feet apart to be safe, how can we track COVID-19 and better protect ourselves?
Hopefully he's going to talk
Facebook
here.
has come up with one answer and wants you to help.
We're partnering with researchers at Carnegie Mellon University to run a widespread survey across Facebook asking people what kind of symptoms they're feeling.
Can you explain to everybody how it works and what you're...
You know, and I don't want to belabor that, but really, did you see when he was testifying to Congress and, like, never changed expression at all? And he turns like this, like, just bizarre. All right, so anyway, okay, that's enough of that. Let's go back and see what else. Yeah, this is very interesting, if you ask me. CDC's failed CV tests were tainted with CV, feds confirm. So these tests were literally tainted with what they were supposed to be testing. So I don't know, maybe those swabs had it, so when they were sticking them up their nose, then they're actually placing the virus there. I don't know, but this is pretty bad. And this is from today. As the new coronavirus took root across America, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention sent states tainted test kits in early February that were themselves seeded with the virus. Federal officials have confirmed the contamination made the tests uninterpretable, and because testing is crucial for containment efforts, it lost the country valuable time to get ahead of the advancing pandemic. I'm sure that's what they were intending to do. The CDC has been vague about what went wrong with the tests, initially only saying that a problem in the manufacturing of one of the reagents had led to the failure. Subsequent reporting suggested that the problem was with a negative control, that is, a part of the test meant to be free of any trace of CV as a critical reference for confirming that the test was working properly overall. Now, according to investigation results reported by the New York Times, federal officials confirmed that sloppy laboratory practices at 2 of 3 CDC labs involved in the test creation led to the contamination of the tests and their interpretable results. You know, something tells me there's a whole lot more behind that story than what we just read. How on earth do the tests get contaminated with CV? Doesn't seem to make sense to me. Seems to me that that was done on purpose. I'm just saying, CDC, not such an above board organization as we might think. All right, let's go back and see what else I would like to get to here, because we've got lots of stuff. Now, this is interesting, and I do want to get to this. This by Red Colley. As an expert at DNA, I knew as soon as I compared the sequence of a spike protein from bat with COVID-19 that this virus did not jump species at a fish market. Look at how many changes were made to let it infect humans, made by recombination of 2 viruses. Fauci is lying. Well, we know that. We know that. But what she is saying is that they made all these changes to make it infect humans, and that the sequence, you know, she took the, you know, the little spikes that stick out of the virus, which is why they call it corona. She took one of those spikes, which is the protein, and from a bat with COVID-19. And she's saying that there's absolutely no way that this could have naturally arose. There's too many changes to it that had to be made to let it infect humans. So, and it was made by the recombination of 2 viruses. So yeah, not good. Not good at all. Now, this is interesting as well, and I think this is important to get to. Trial program for China's digital currency set to begin in 4 cities. Again, this is from today, so it's fresh news. As Facebook re-examines the place of its Libra cryptocurrency in the market, China's central bank has launched a trial program across 4 cities to test the use of digital currency that is said to include some features of cryptocurrencies but lack the anonymity of such digital assets. In the coming weeks, the city of Shenzhen, you know, these cities right here, I can't pronounce all these. Xiong'an, Chengdu, Suzhou, are expected to begin participating in the trial program of the digital currency electronic payment. The Digital Currency Research Institute of the People's Bank of China confirmed to the South China Morning Post. Reports of the pilot program's launch have been circulating over the past several days following the emergence of screenshots on social media showing the DCEP wallet. Breaking: China Central Bank Digital Currency, DCEP, is coming. Pics show that Agricultural Bank of China is making internal tests on DCEP wallet, and these pics are real. We downloaded the app and found that the first 4 pilot areas are, and named the cities. So, the Digital Currency Research Group clarified to the SCMP, that is South China Morning Post, that the features seen in these early trials are not final, and it doesn't mean that China's sovereign digital currency is officially launched. That said, the Institute also reveals the upcoming 2022 Winter Olympic venues in Beijing, China, could possibly be used as a test site for the digital currency. Citing the National Business Daily, the SCMP reported that Suzhou's Xiangcheng district will test the currency in May by digitally paying for half of the travel subsidies given to public sector workers. Yeah, I'm not going to go on there, but it is very interesting. We are moving closer to a global digital currency, and that is the plan. That's the plan of the globalists, and we do know that there will be such a system in place in the book of Revelation, and it is not the book of Revelations. It is the revelation of Jesus Christ, and so many people get that wrong. They say Revelations. It's not. It's Revelation. And in that book, it states that we will have a global order of some sort, and unless you have the mark, no one will be able to buy or sell. So, it's just interesting development there. Now, let's see if there's anything else that is a must cover. I can't remember what this is, but yeah, very interesting actually. Russian biologist and former UN expert Igor Nikolin, CV is a biological weapon used by global government to reduce the world population by 90%. Russian biologist and former UN expert. Okay, we just said that's the exact same thing. Let's take a look at this. This is going to be the last thing we cover. I'll save those few items for the next video. you never know, I might have time to cover one or two more things. But Russian biologist Igor Nikolin, who was presented as a former member of the UN Commission on Biological and Chemical Weapons, said in a February 27, 2020 interview on Russia Today's Arabic language channel that he believes it is no coincidence that the CV has had the effect it has had in China, Iran, and certain European countries. He said that CV was carefully selected to affect countries that rival the United States, and that it is a conspiracy by the global government, which he said consists of 200 families that control over 400 trillion, that own the media outlets and Hollywood, that control the minds of humanity, and that want to decrease the world's population by 90%. He suggested that it may be possible that coronavirus is a targeted biological weapon, like he said Ebola and the bird flu were, that infects some people and not others. And he said that the U.S. government may be testing a pathogenic agent it began developing in 1999. Nikolin also said that this is a warning to non-English speaking world that it must submit to the laws that are imposed upon it. Igor Nikolin, I believe this is no coincidence that China was infected with CV. I believe that this virus was selected very carefully in order to reach countries that are considered to be America's rivals, such as China, Iran, and some EU countries, including Italy. Some people think that there are pro-Russian tendencies in those countries, and this is why we see more infected people in those countries. I don't think that this is a mere coincidence. This is a scheme by the world's elite. Now, I do believe that this is a scheme by the global elite. I really do. And I believe that because we have prior knowledge. We have people writing about this. We have, TV shows talking about this before it happened. So it's one of those things that they always let us know what they're going to do. But because we're not aware of what they're going to do, sometimes we don't see that, or sometimes we'll be, like the Simpsons. They seem to predict everything. Very, very strange. Anyway, so he's saying this is a scheme by the world's elite, and the interviewer says the global government. Igor Nikolin says, right, the global government is the correct term. At least that is what they call themselves. No one else elected them, but this is how they see themselves. These 200 families have 40 trillion, and they consider themselves to be the most important people on Earth. They own most of the media outlets. They are the ones making the Hollywood movies, for example. They take movies about pandemics, or they make movies about pandemics. These families control the minds of humanity and claim that humanity must be reduced to 1/10 of the current population. We know he's speaking truth here. He may not be right in every single thing, but there's a lot of truth here. Interviewer, is it really possible to produce biological weapons that target a specific nation or ethnic group and that may infect them but not others? There were reports that the Israelis were thinking about producing, or have actually produced, some sort of biological weapon that kills Palestinians but does not harm other Israelis. Is that true? Is it possible? Igor Nikolin, people talk about this. I know that a few years ago there was a strange epidemic in Madagascar. It was not in Africa. It was a pneumonic plague, which is a horrible thing. This epidemic killed only the locals, while it did not harm European tourists and not even the yellow race. There is also, of course, weapons such as Ebola, avian influenza, and CV that is currently infecting mostly Chinese and other Asian peoples. Such weapons exist. In 1999, the Americans started a project. The head of the CIA at the time, George Tenet, and President Clinton said that they would produce a pathogenic agent that would affect certain races but not others. 20 years have passed and the time for field experiments has come. It seems that planet Earth has been turned into a testing ground. I'll go even further and say that the Anglo-Saxon countries have issued a biological warning to all non-English speaking countries. Either you live according to the laws we impose on you, or you will not live on this planet. Either we kill you fast or we kill you slowly. This is the main problem of modern world policy. Let me know what you think about that. I would really, really like to know what you think about that. So, let's see if there's anything else I can cover quickly, because I do have some people to thank. I don't remember what this is, so let's click on that because I'm curious. Oh, yes. Under Obama's administration, the NIH banned CV testing in USA. Dr. Fauci and Obama then funneled $3,700,000 to the very Wuhan lab responsible for the COVID-19 outbreak. Guess what that money was used to study? Now, let's listen to this guy. Again, I can't verify that what he's saying is absolutely true, but I would sure love to find out because...
This was coined by the CIA in the 1950s. It's probably the most successful coining of any term in U.S. history because it's kept, including myself, for decades, literally hundreds of millions of Americans from asking questions and digging. The minute you look into something that the mainstream media or the popular culture in America dubs a conspiracy theorist, you're a whack job. Reality of everything is the United States has been drugged into every war by its own government, planting false flags and creating false incidents to convince the American people, who have always by nature been recluses. We don't want to go to fight other people's wars. The people of America have never wanted that for themselves. It's the government that creates false things like Remember the Maine, the Spanish-American War, and the Yellow Press that convinced the American people that Spain had attacked the United States. That was false. And every single war that we've been in since that has been instigated by a false flag of some sort. So now I want to fast forward well beyond through 9/11, and yes, I do include 9/11. The Bush family's a motherfucker. And if you don't know, the cousin of Mr. President Bush is the one that owns a security company that did overnight security in the 9/11 towers. It's true. You want to know how that all went down? Go check out Shadow Ring on Amazon, number one. Number two, let's fast forward to Dr. Fauci and the Obama administration. During the Obama administration, the National Institute of Health banned any kind of experimenting with coronaviruses because of the fact that they were too dangerous and they'd get leaked inside the United States. So what did the Obama administration's NIH do under Dr. Fauci's tutelage? They secretly sent $3.7 million to the very Wuhan factory or the Wuhan virus lab that we are now saying is responsible for leaking the virus.
Wow.
And that $3.7 million was sent there directly to experiment with the coronavirus behind the American people's back. Dr. Fauci ran this. And in 2017, there's a video that is now surfacing of Dr. Fauci sitting on TV guaranteeing that the Trump administration will deal with an unexpected pandemic. So you figure that one out, and you then tell me why Fauci should be a part of this anymore. Have a good day.
Well, he makes a very good point. And I don't know why Fauci is, up there on the CV team. I think that Trump knows the real deal about him. I really do. And it could be that he is trying to trap him. I don't know. But I cannot believe that Donald Trump, as smart as he is, and the man is a genius, I don't care what anybody says, I don't believe that he is not aware of Fauci's past, because that's just too much to believe. I don't believe that. So I have to believe that Trump knows, and that he is, I was going to say monitoring the situation, but you know what I'm saying. So I think that's going to be it for tonight. And that's a lot of information, actually, and which is good. Information's a good thing. And I'll save these few items for tomorrow. And now I want to thank some people who are very much worthy of being thanked. So the following are coffee donors: Kim S., Veronica St. Clair, One Fox to Another. I like that name, One Fox to Another. Barb in Cincinnati. I think that's Barbie in Cincinnati. And Yami Leisner. I'm not sure if I pronounced your last name right, Yami. I'm not even 100% sure I pronounced your first name right, but thank you. And now this is an easy one to pronounce. Jay. Just Jay. And Sherry. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And of course, it keeps me doing what I do. So it's needed and is put to good use. So, and snail mail. I got a couple items in the mail today. Bev Blanchard from Ottawa. She sent a beautiful card. She is an artist, Ojibwe Indian, and she is an artist, and she sent a beautiful card that she had done and a note. And so thank you, Bev. It's always good to hear from fellow Canadian. And Sharon D. from Massachusetts sent a very pretty card with a lighthouse that is supposedly close to her, and a letter, beautiful letter. I love your handwriting, Sharon, and a donation. So thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you. I really do. So keep the comments coming, and I will see you in the next video. Now, you guys have a great evening. Stay safe. Hang on here. There we go. Gosh, I'm a little offside there today, aren't I? I don't know how that happened, but oh well. I'm off-sided most days, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, you guys have a great night. You stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth. All right. Good night, guys.